Dies ist der Mauticast. Alles über Open Source Marketing Automation mit Mautic. Und das hier ist dein Gastgeber, Eki Gümbel.
Ja, genau. Willkommen zu Mauticast 36. Hallo Thomas,
Moin,
schön, dass du da bist. Wir befinden uns mitten im Sommerloch, Loch ohne Loch. Also
ich mag kein Loch.
Nee. Außer, dass ich bald in Urlaub fahre.
Ja. Sehr schön.
Nee, Themen haben wir trotzdem reichlich für unseren Mauticast und auch links und rechts davon. Vielleicht an der Stelle mal wieder der Teaser. Alles, was nicht in den Mauticast reinpasst hier, das haben wir dann trotzdem in unserem Mautic-Newsletter. Falls ihr den noch nicht abonniert habt, dann tut das gerne mal.
Sehr guter Tipp.
Dann immer nochmal gesammelt alle Links und so weiter. Ihr müsst nicht mal mehr in die Shownotes reingehen. Ist das geil. Unser Interview der Woche, hätte ich fast gesagt, der Folge, ist diesmal mit Bezug auf die Mauticon, wann war die? Im Juni, Anfang Juni. Da gab es ja viele schöne Talks und ich habe mal ein Follow-up mir gebucht mit der Yanna-Torry Aspraki, mein Gott, Yanna-Torry Aspraki. Die hat einen ganz spannenden und ich glaube einen gut sortierten Talk zum Thema E-Mail-Inboxing gemacht, also Zustellraten für E-Mail. Und das Interview wiederholt nicht diesen Talk, sondern das geht einfach nochmal auf zusätzliche Dinge ein. Ich stelle ihr eine Menge Fragen, vertiefend zu den Dingen, die sie gesagt hat und auch ergänzend zu den Dingen, die sie gesagt hat. Ich glaube, das ist nochmal eine ganz nette Vervollständigung. Das hat mich auch ein bisschen weitergebracht wieder. Und für alle, die mit E-Mail zu tun haben, bestimmt wertvoll zu hören. Bevor wir da hinkommen, haben wir ein bisschen Housekeeping, Thomas.
Wir haben Housekeeping, genau. Wir haben ja unter anderem in der letzten Folge über den neuen Media Manager gesprochen, dessen Namen ich vergessen habe.
Ich wette, du hast ihn Peter genannt, oder Klaus?
Wahrscheinlich Peter. Peter könnte gut sein.
Ja.
Das war tatsächlich gar nicht für Grapes.js.
Ja, genau. Es gibt dann PR und wir haben gesagt, er hat es nicht geschafft in die 4.4. Er ist tatsächlich auch, habe ich hinterher müssen, gegen die alte Bilder-Software, während der neue Media Manager für den neuen Bilder, den Grapes.js-Bilder, der ist Work in Progress, auch da wird dran gearbeitet, aber der ist nicht mal bereit zum Testen. Also schade.
Ja, genau. Und dann tatsächlich noch ein bisschen Follow-up zur 4.4er-Version.
Ja, wir hatten einen kleinen, aber einen ärgerlichen Bug ja schon erwähnt, nämlich, dass ich keine bestimmten Custom-Fields mehr anlegen konnte. Wir hatten auch den Workaround genannt. Dazu gibt es inzwischen einen Fix, der in der 4.4.1 drin ist. Und ich hoffe, die 4.4.1 ist veröffentlicht, wenn ihr das hier hört. Wir nehmen übrigens auf am 1. August 2022.
Jawohl.
Es kam noch ein zweiter Bug an die Oberfläche, nämlich dass wenn man eine Composer-Installation oder ein Composer-Update besser gesagt durchführt, dass dann die Konfiguration leider weg ist. Auch durchaus nasty, wie der Engländer sagen würde. Auch das ein kleiner Bug, aber mit ärgerlichen Auswirkungen. Da wir alle fleißig Backups machen vom Updaten, kann da nichts passieren, aber auch das ist natürlich gefixt in der 4.4.1. Falls ihr noch auf der 4.3 seid und mit Composer arbeitet und die 4.4 einspielen wollt, da tut's nicht mit Composer. Oder kopiert euch die local.php vorher einmal weg und schreibt sie wieder drauf. Ja, das sind so die Unschönheiten. Es gab auch ein neues Feature in der 4.4, welches wir nicht erwähnt haben, nämlich ein Clear Cache Button, der sich befindet im Mautic Marketplace, der immer noch rechts in der Beta, mit Beta-Bubble rechts im Menü rumdümpelt. Der entwickelt sich so langsam raus aus Beta und das Clear Cache ist tatsächlich ein Teil davon, dass man halt den aktualisieren kann. Aber es hat nichts zu tun mit dem Mautic Clear Cache. Ne? Genau. Also wenn ihr andere Dinge gemacht habt, dann reicht es nicht, diesen Button zu klicken, sondern müsst ihr weiterhin das Konsolkommando ausführen oder ein Plugin zum Clear Cache verwenden. Wir haben an ganz vielen Stellen immer auch so Wording-Themen. Ich glaube, aktualisieren oder Refresh oder so wäre da vielleicht deutlich besser geeignet. Auch, das kann sich vielleicht rütteln im Rahmen der Beta. Aber zum Beispiel in der deutschsprachigen Mautic User Group haben wir jetzt gerade das Thema gehabt, einmal deutsche Sprache besser machen in Mautic, ne? Benutzeroberfläche, Dokumentation, Knowledge Base und so weiter. Und tatsächlich auch das Hands-on dazu. Wie mache ich es denn wirklich? Nicht nur immer drüber reden. Das war eine ganz gute Erfahrung. Und ja, wer noch nicht dabei ist, dem sei vielleicht die deutschsprachige User Group, das Meetup, durchaus ans Herz gelegt. So, so viel im Rückblick zur letzten Folge. In der letzten Folge haben wir ja auch viel über E-Mails gesprochen, Bilder und auch ein paar Dinge darüber hinaus. Es gibt eine Sache, die neu dazugekommen ist jetzt, und zwar ein Pull-Request, der heißt mark emails as failed, if they fail, aber do not set DNC. Also DNC heißt do not contact. Wenn also eine E-Mail bounced, was mache ich dann? Stelle ich den Benutzer auf den gesamten Kontakt auf do not contact, sodass er nie wieder irgendeine Nachricht bekommt? Oder mache ich irgendetwas anderes und vielleicht dann kampagnenbasiert noch etwas Drittes? So, das ist zum einen ein technisches Feature, was vielleicht hilfreich ist, und zum anderen aber auch eine Philosophiefrage, was will ich denn eigentlich? Und deswegen dieser PR, dieser Pull-Request, also dieser Software-Vorschlag, der ist jetzt da, andere Leute können sich das anschauen und es macht vielleicht Sinn, das wirklich zu tun.
Genau. Bezieht sich das Do Not Contact dann nur auf einen Kanal? Ich stelle jetzt mal eine dumme Frage, also nur auf einen E-Mail-Kanal oder auch auf WhatsApp oder so? Ja,
genau. Also Do Not Contact ist, oh Gott, oder doch nicht? Also ich glaube, das ist kanalübergreifend. Also
okay, weil dann wäre es ja wirklich fatal, jemanden nur weil E-Mail gerade fehlt, auf Do Not Contact zu setzen, wenn ich ihn anders noch erreichen kann, per SMS oder so.
Ja, ein verwobenes Thema. Ne? Es gibt ja andere Stellen dann auch, wo dann Do Not Contact gesetzt wird, wie zum Beispiel bei List Unsubscribe zum Beispiel wird das gemacht, wenn jemand im E-Mail-Client sagt, Newsletter abbestellen, dann ist er hier auf einmal auf Do Not Contact und so weiter. Und das sind so Dinge,
trickreich.
Ja, kleine Nischen, die noch nicht perfekt sind und wo Mautic gerade sich rüttelt. Und ich finde halt diese Diskussion, was wollen wir eigentlich, finde ich so wichtig, aber halt auch gerne das Testen des konkreten PRs. Deswegen, wir verlinken zum einen den Code, zum anderen auch den Forumbeitrag dazu. Und ich würde alle Leute bitten, da wirklich sehr, sehr ernsthaft mal ein Auge drauf zu werfen. So, dann haben wir das Thema Versionsmonitoring vielleicht ein bisschen als Oberbegriff. Also im Prinzip, ich möchte benachrichtigt werden, wenn meine Mautic-Version veraltet ist. Ja. So, morgen kommt die 4.4.1 hoffentlich raus oder irgendwann die Tage. Und ich bin noch auf der 4.3 und vielleicht sollte ich mal updaten. Ich denke aber nicht dran oder ich habe es nicht mitbekommen oder was auch immer. So, da gab es, ich glaube, im letzten Jahr schon mal einen Codevorschlag, der so eine Nachricht innerhalb von Mautic gezeigt hat, so eine roten Blinky. Nein, nicht Blinky, nur Flash-Message. Und es gibt jetzt einen zweiten Ansatz von unserem Freund Matthias Sackmeister, der auch schon mal im Interview hier war, der sagt, okay, ich schicke einfach eine Slack-Nachricht und informiere etwas proaktiver. Damit könnte man zum Beispiel auch sagen, okay, das ist eine Kundeninstanz, aber ich werde benachrichtigt, wenn da was veraltet ist. Also auch das ein netter Ansatz. Ich bin mir sicher, es gibt valide Anwendungsfälle dafür. Insgesamt scheint mir das alles noch ein bisschen wenig ausgegoren, so das Versionsmonitoring.
Das ist ja ein großes Fass, ne? Also ich kenne das aus der Typo-3-Welt ja ganz gut, aber tatsächlich auch aus anderen Welten, und es gibt jetzt zumindest erstmal eine klassische Einteilung. Bin ich habe ich eine einzige Mautic-Instanz, die mich interessiert, ich bin für mehrere Mautic-Instanzen zuständig. Das finde ich ist schon mal gar nicht so trivial und ein großer Unterschied. Diese ganz normale Flash-Message kenne ich zum Beispiel auch bei WordPress, ne? Wenn du dich bei WordPress anmeldest, dann steht da oben hier, neue Version liegt vor. Fair enough. Dass es einen anderen Weg gibt, zum Beispiel, dass man konfigurieren kann, ich möchte in diesem Slack-Kanal benachrichtigt werden, gut. Die nächste Frage ist ja, wie oft möchte ich denn benachrichtigt werden? Also, ne, dann bin ich auch wieder selber für zuständig, das in Slack vorzuhalten oder mit dieser Nachricht in Slack was zu tun. So viel gewonnen ist dann auch nicht, außer dem aktiven Push, einmalig im Zweifel. Oder der Mail oder so. Ein anderer Ansatz ist ja wirklich eine Monitoring-Instanz zu haben, also ein System, dem ich in diesem Fall Mautixe vorwerfen kann und der regelmäßig pullt oder die Mautixe pushen und sagen, meine Version ist.
Ja.
So, da wäre die Frage, ich weiß nicht, ob die Mautic API das kann, ne? Kann ich da abrufen? Gib mir mal deine Versionsnummer, das wäre irgendeine Idee oder ein Push aus Mautic heraus. Und dann würde man sich ein Regelwerk bauen können, wo man sagt, okay, in diesem Fall benachrichtige per Mail, in diesem Fall benachrichtige per Slack, in diesem Fall tu dies, in diesem Fall tu das. Ne? Dann habe ich so ein erwachseneres Monitoring.
Ja.
Viele denkbare Wege. Es ist zumindest alles nicht trivial. Ne?
Ja. Also zunächst mal hast du schon recht, es ist nur für die interessant, die eigentlich Agentur sind, ne? die Mautic Services erbringen und die viele Instanzen monitoren
genau,
müssen. Ne?
Genau.
Und jetzt verrate ich dir mal, Thomas, so eine API, das kann Mautic nicht, aber wir im Haus haben sowas.
Oh.
Ja, also ich glaube, jeder Mautic Service Provider, der hat in seinem Schachtel, wie sagt der Schweizer?
Kuchi-Kaschli.
Kaschli, ja, genau.
Kuchi-Kaschli.
Ja, Mautic Kaschli.
Das ist also Küchenkiste oder so Küchenschrank.
Genau,
Ja.
das ist ein guter Mann.
Tolles Wort.
Ja, also hat in so einem Kaschli so ein bisschen Toolset schon, was so rudimentär das Monitoring übernimmt. Ne? Und also
glaube ich auch.
Monitoring also welche Core-Version ist installiert, welche Plugins sind installiert, wenn es gut läuft, auch welche Plugins in welcher Version. Da spielt uns jetzt natürlich die Composerization ein bisschen in die Hand, dass wir überhaupt erstmal Versionen haben, wenn es gut läuft. Und dann muss ich natürlich wissen, was ist denn die aktuelle Version. Ne? Auch das bei Core kriegt man das noch hin. Bei Third-Party-Plugins vielleicht nicht mehr so gut, aber vielleicht, also zumindest was GitHub ist, kann man dann sagen, okay, es gibt im GitHub irgendwas Neueres. Und dann das ganze Thema, was mache ich da draus? Also wir machen so, wir werfen das in ein anderes Überwachungssystem rein. Wir versuchen nicht selbst irgendwie eine Alarmierung zu schreiben oder sowas. Egal, also die noch übergelagerte Frage ist das überhaupt Job von Mautic? Ne? Oder
genau.
sollte sich Mautic einfach um Mautic kümmern und nicht ums Betreiben von Mautic? Und ich finde im Moment tatsächlich so den Ansatz, also die Energie, die da ist. Es gibt so viele Sachen in Mautic zu tun. Die Energie, die da ist, sollte tatsächlich da reinfließen ins Produkt. Und die Leute, die Mautic Hosting Environments haben, die brauchen halt ihr Toolset und deswegen glaube ich, dieser kleine Ansatz, der ist schon mal angemessen.
Es gibt also ganz kurz noch als Ergänzung, es gibt ja auch den Anwendungsfall, wo du eben nicht nur Mautic als Agentur überwachen willst, sondern du willst eben zentral überwachen und alarmieren, nicht nur Mautic, sondern Typo 3, WordPress, was auch immer du da noch in deinem Client so hast. Ne? Und insofern stimme ich dir zu. Mautic muss eine Basistätigkeit machen, Composer liefert eine Basistätigkeit, aber ja, es wird sicherlich einfach Monitoring-Tools geben. Ne?
Ja, also ich finde diesen Typo 3 Monitor tatsächlich sehr schick, weil da kann man halt auch andere Sachen anflanschen und ich kann nur sagen, gibt es irgendwelche alten Default-User oder so oder schlechte Kennwörter oder sowas und ja, aber in 5 oder 10 Jahren sind wir da auch mit Mautic. Ne? Okay. So, was haben wir denn noch Interessanteres hier? Twilio SMS, genau. SMS verschicken mit Twilio ist ein alter Hut und ist trotzdem ziemlich cool und ist auch bis jetzt noch nie so richtig komplett ausgereizt worden. Und es gibt jetzt einen Ansatz von Corey Burrell in Sacramento, der hat einfach gesagt, ich mache mal ein GitHub-Bundle, was einfach die vorhandenen Features ergänzt, um Dinge, die mir wichtig sind. Zum Beispiel zusätzliche Unsubscribe-Begriffe, also in unserer Mautic-Welt bisher keine Benutzer Stopp eintippen und dann ist das ein Unsubscribe. In Twilio zum Beispiel ist ja auch so wie zum Beispiel das Wort Cancel oder das Wort Unsubscribe vorgesehen. Und schwupps, schon geht das auch bei Mautic. Super. Oder zum Beispiel, ich kann eine statische Autoreply hinterlegen. Ich kann sagen so, vielen Dank für Ihre Nachricht. Diese Mailbox wird nicht überwacht oder sowas. Oder wir haben Ihre Nachricht bekommen und kümmern uns drum, bitte rufen Sie uns nicht an, wir rufen Sie an.
Genau.
Also einfach so ein bisschen ergänzende Features für die Twilio-Integration.
Sehr gut. Genau. Das nächste Thema haben wir uns notiert mit Help Joey Keller. Der hat so ein Wochenendprojekt gestartet, nämlich ein Mautic WhatsApp-Plugin basierend auf einem Dienst, der Volha heißt. Ist ganz klar Work in Progress. Und ja, da kann er große Hilfe gebrauchen, das zu testen, das auszuprobieren, ihm Feedback zu geben.
Genau, wir haben ja eben gerade über Twilio gesprochen. Es gibt ja schon längst so den Weg über Webhooks und so weiter mit Twilio dann auch WhatsApp anzubinden, aber das ist halt immer so ein bisschen gebastelt, für den das einrichten muss zumindest. Und Joey hat halt den Ansatz gehabt, okay, ich will mal ein vernünftiges Plugin haben und hat losgelegt. Er ist halt kein Coder. Wobei, mit Abstrichen, man muss sagen, also er wird immer besser, glaube ich, im Coden. Falls du dir hörst, Joey, okay, no offense. Nein, aber er hilft so vielen Leuten und ich finde, er hat total verdient, dass ihm auch mal jemand hilft und deswegen, wer da Lust hat mitzumachen an diesem WhatsApp-Plugin, das wäre doch eine coole Sache. Schaut euch das an. Gut, dann haben wir noch ein bisschen Best Practice oder ein bisschen Diskussion vielleicht, wie verwendet man eigentlich Mautic? Und zwar das erste Thema geht um MJML-E-Mails, also um E-Mails, die ich im Mautic-Bilder schreibe. Es kam im Forum gerade mal der Eintrag, womit schreibt ihr denn das? Der Mautic-Bilder ist ja nicht so feature-complete oder er hat seine Limitationen. Womit schreibt ihr denn das? Und dann stellte sich heraus, dass tatsächlich einige Leute extern die E-Mail erstmal schreiben und dann reinkopieren nach Mautic. Zum Teil einfach mit MJML.io, also der MJML-Webseite, die auch einen schönen Testeditor hat. Zum Teil zum Beispiel mit einer Mac-App, die hier von TechBill empfohlen wird. Einfach eine MJML-App für den Macintosh. Für mich ist jetzt eher die spannendere Frage, was für Workflows verwenden Leute eigentlich? Ne? Gibt es Leute, die einfach unsere Boilerplate-Templates nehmen und da ihren Content reintickern? Gibt es Leute, die sich ihre eigenen Templates bauen, was wir viel für Kunden machen? Oder gibt es halt Leute, die einfach freifliegend ihre E-Mail außerhalb von Mautic zusammentickern und dann mit Copy and Paste rein übernehmen? Letzteres, finde ich, muss man zumindest aufpassen, weil jetzt nicht alle Attribute zwingend unterstützt werden von Mautic. Also zumindest gibt es ein paar Einschränkungen oder ein paar Dinge, auf die man achten muss, wenn man ein Theme baut oder ein Template baut. Aber gut, wenn man den Freiheitsgrad haben möchte, ist das natürlich sehr bequem, einen externen Editor zu nehmen. Das täte mich mal sehr interessieren, wenn von euch in der Hörerinnenschaft jemand auch so arbeitet. Dann warum und vielleicht auch mit welchen Erfahrungen und welchen Tools oder so, weil das sehe ich zumindest in meiner täglichen Arbeit, in meinen Konversationen mit Kunden und so weiter eigentlich überhaupt nicht. Aber vielleicht lebe ich da in der Blase, das würde mich sehr interessieren. Also gebt mir da gerne mal Feedback.
Jawohl. Und genau, das zweite Thema ist, es gibt ja in Mautic einen Kalender, in dem man Events sieht. Und der wird ja automatisch gefüllt. Es tauchte die Frage auf im Forum, ob jemand diesen Kalender überhaupt benutzt und das Feedback dazu ist schon interessant.
Ja, also Events im Sinne von E-Mails verschicken oder so weiter.
Also nicht Events von Party hier und ja.
Also ich war ja sehr beruhigt, dass alle das Ding so ignorieren, wie ich es tue. Ich habe mich nie im Leben damit beschäftigt und habe nie verstanden, wozu der überhaupt sinnvoll ist.
Also es gibt da ja ein bisschen Vorschlag, was denn eine gute Alternative wäre, ne? Ja,
das war von unserem Freund Andy Town. Der sagte, von mir aus, mach da den Deckel drauf. Aber wenn wir wieder einen Kalender haben wollen, hier sind 10 Gedanken, was der denn können sollte. Und das ist natürlich mal ein konstruktiver Ansatz. Und vielleicht an der Stelle auch einfach die Einladung, wenn ihr Gedanken zum Kalender habt, wenn euch da konkret was fehlt oder stört oder so, oder vielleicht seid ihr auch massive Benutzer, Link zum Forum-Thread in den Shownotes, bevor der Kalender von der Speisekarte gestrichen wird, dann gebt ihr gerne mal euren Kommentar dazu ab. Ja, der Kalender. Auf meinem Kalender war, wie gesagt, war die gut, ne?
Wahnsinn, du haust aber auch welche raus.
Sollen wir das löschen? Nee, lassen wir drin.
Das lassen wir auf jeden Fall drin.
Okay, auf meinem Kalender war das Folgeinterview mit der Yanna-Torry Aspraki. Die ist, wird sich selber erzählen, wo sie wohnt. Und ich habe in der Einleitung ja schon gesagt, es ging darum, Zusatzfragen, Nachtragfragen oder so, Vertiefungsfragen zu stellen zu dem Talk, den sie bei der Mauticon Global 2022 gehalten hat. Der Talk war schon gut und ich glaube, hier kommt nochmal das Häubchen auf der Sahnekirsche oder so ähnlich. Ne?
Sehr gut.
Viel Spaß. Okay, there we go. Hello, Yanna-Torry. Welcome to the show. And nice to talk to you again after Mautic Conference Global 2022. Hello, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to further discuss email and deliverability.
I am too. And in the preparation for this interview, we agreed that we would not repeat the same thing over again that we already talked about or that you talked about in the conference, but rather do a little enhanced Q&A session. To tell the truth, some of the questions are my own ones. Others come from colleagues, but also from the meetup group here or the forums. So it's a constant topic, this email inboxing, deliverability thing. So no wonder that there are a ton of questions. And I would love to go into the details a little bit more than we did a couple of months ago. However, if you, as the listener, have not watched that talk, then please press a pause button right now and go to YouTube and find the talk, Mautic Conference Email Inboxing. And the majority of the topics here will really refer directly to the talk. So it's a good idea to watch the talk first and then get back to this beautiful interview. Okay, now for everybody else who's still here, I assume that you did watch the talk. If you haven't, Yanna-Torry, please once again give us the basics about yourself, what you do, who you are, where you are, and all that, and how the cat is doing.
Sounds great. So I'm Yanna-Torry. I'm a deliverability specialist and one of the partners at Email Console. We are a deliverability monitoring tool, and we talk about deliverability 24/7. We're trying to make it more accessible to people. Lately, a lot of senders out there have seen more and more of their emails land in the spam filters of their audience members. And panic is either coming, or a lot of questions definitely are coming more. So I'm excited to be here to talk about deliverability with you.
That's cool. And the big question, what does it mean? Why should I care about it? Is like everything else answered in the talk.
Of course.
I think the reason that you gave is the practical example that like I'm sending out an email and my open rate is taking a dip. So I agree. It's more and more important these days. I would like to take a direct follow-up to one of the latest point in your talk. I mean, basically, the topics that you described there are all the things that can harm your inboxing rate, both on the technical and the content side, but also the ways of understanding and monitoring what is going on. So one thing that you showed but not really explained was a cool tool called seed listing. And people asked about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about this seed listing thing?
Yes, of course. So oftentimes when we see deliverability issues, they can either be with specific mailbox providers or they can be with multiple mailbox providers. The important part of deliverability is that you need to understand that you have a reputation with each single mailbox provider, every block list, every ISP, and you have to maintain all those relationships for emails to continue to land in the inbox. So when we sometimes feel that there might be a deliverability problem, emails are not landing in the inbox, they're landing in a spam, or nowhere at all. We're not counting here the promotions tabs. That is still the inbox. Really the spam folder, junk, or nowhere at all. What we'd like to do at the beginning to measure where we're having the most issues is a seed listing test. So it's a simple inbox placement test. A tool like Email Console, for example, or any other, will give you a list of email addresses. You upload them in your CRM. You send a normal email to them as if they were part of your audience, and we will give you back results. So we will let you know from all the emails that you've sent, which ones we have received in the inbox, in the junk or spam folder, or if some inboxes have not received them at all. And from there, we can further analyze multiple things. Every email that's sent comes with a lot of information that doesn't even appear to the sender. Like usually you see the content, you can click on links and see the images, but an email has more information, just like a picture that has the date and the size of the file and all that information. We don't see it in the picture, but it's still stored inside that file. So the same thing with email. So with the seed listing test, we can see even more information, how you're authenticated, if your email is properly set up, if you have all the information you need in order to be sending safe, secure emails. So it's a great place to start and to see with which mailbox providers you have an issue.
Okay.
And from there, we can analyze a lot more.
Okay. So it is basically doing spam testing and analyzing as well. Okay.
Exactly.
Does it also hook into feedback loop type of things, or look at bounces or anything?
So what it will look at is from what an audience member would receive. So what we're going to get there is where it's going to inbox, and as well what the different spam filters are going to think of it. So for example, the Yahoo ones are not going to read the header the same way as the Gmail, like the Google inboxes, for example. And we will monitor, for example, if the domain and the sender IP at that moment is on a block list.
Yeah.
So that is definitely important because it will, of course, affect the inbox placement.
Okay, got it. Okay. Now, those mailbox providers that you just mentioned, they may look at block lists, those public block lists, but they also do their own monitoring, which you describe in depth based on all sort of things, ratios and engagement, etc. And that turns into, I don't know, domain reputation, IP reputation, even internal block lists. And I've seen some where you can even ask for a delisting if something went bad and you want to improve. So you can delist directly with the mailbox providers.
Yes.
Is that, first of all, am I getting that right? Is it a fair statement, or would you describe it differently?
Yes, it is. The biggest issue with getting delisted is usually the sender doesn't want to change something that is being perceived as bad or cannot explain it correctly enough. And the thing that we kind of forget is that these, there's not like a million people taking care of the postmaster support, right? For Google and Hotmail. And you can imagine all the local providers. You have the GMX, La Poste, Orange. They're not the same size as Google now, right? So we're fighting with machines and just a handful of people that are able to take these support tickets, analyze them, and then assess risk. So yelling at them you cannot really yell at them. Sending them very angry messages is not going to get you delisted. What's going to get you delisted is changing the behavior that got you listed. Getting delisted after that is very simple. You explain, you're polite. Hello Google, Hotmail, whoever it is. We saw this issue when we got listed. We fixed it by doing this, and that. We are going to protect ourselves by doing this and that in the future. Is anything else that am I missing? Can you please delist?
Yeah.
Most of the times you don't even need to answer back. After 24 or 48 hours, they delist you, or they will reply back and say, hey, you missed this, which sometimes you cannot figure out because there's so many problems. You fix certain of them and some of them might have been hidden behind another problem. And just this normal conversation. And that's it. We're dealing with machines here. It's not a person Tinder swiping your emails in the inbox or the spam folder. It's a machine. So different red flags that, like in a very generic perspective, might look okay, doesn't look okay for like a mailbox provider, like for a machine. So simple things can be the number of emails that you send to. If they're constantly changing, and the message is always the same, the chances are that either you're in an industry where the sales cycle is short, or you're buying a list. So it's, for machine, is like, ones and zeros, and all of them together is going to weight yes or no. Do we trust the email to come in or out? So the delisting part is making sure you reduce the red flags and you politely ask if there's anything else you must fix, because a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize that they're not even the problem. Forms being abused, the double opt-in, not cleaning out enough of the bad emails, people didn't know about list cleaning. These things accumulate over time, and the machine just has way too many red flags. So sometimes it's not something crazy. Most of the times it's a simple issue. And if you fix it, you're going to get delisted, and very, very quickly, because the machine will see the difference.
Yeah. Well, what I find difficult really is to deal with that in different regions, because you have so many local providers, as I just said.
Yes.
And they all have their own ways. And I would love to have some sort of comprehensive overview of those mailbox providers, what to watch out for, how to detect issues in the first place. Like in this case, for this, you really should watch closely the soft bounces. For others, look at that or whatever, and then maybe even policies or link to a form, etc. Is there any such website that gives a good overview of the top 50 mailbox providers?
No, there isn't. I you know what? We should probably sit down and write one.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
All right, maybe that's the next thing we should do.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think all fellow deliverability specialists are going to agree on, and I hope they do, if not assuming for myself, is that one thing, a trend that I'm seeing personally, is that everyone is going towards the consumer first. So what does the person receiving the email want, and what do we need to protect that person from? Mm-hmm. And no matter how everyone is doing it a little bit differently, at the end of the day, that's the most important part. Google doesn't care about my business and my email console emails. What they care about is my subscribers and the people who are using Google. Those are the people that Google is trying to keep happy, right? Yeah, the Gmail users and the G Suite users. And what that means at the end of the day is that the mailbox providers are going to look for senders and accept the emails of senders who engage with their users and their users engage with them. A user that they can clearly see there's some sort of relationship with. They want to see positive human action, and no matter what strategy marketers and affiliate marketers and really good strategists put together, if they start annoying the Google users and the Hotmail users and things like that, they're just going to build spam filters that detect that behavior. So the more strategies we create, the easier it is for spam filters to detect it and to analyze it. And no matter how random we try to be, even randomization, there's patterns in it. Yeah. So the most important part is getting that user to engage. It's not anymore writing that one email that fits for everyone that we send once a week and everyone gets the same message. It's been too long that's not okay, and people are still doing it. And that's going to be the biggest thing, engagement. Think of it like social media. We don't care, we might care about the followers, but we need those constant likes over time. We need those constant conversions. And email is a tool to convert.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, when you talked about engagement being more and more important in the talk, then I really, one thing I really thought does not really apply to everyone, or it's not easy for everyone. So repeat businesses.
Yes, exactly. I can imagine a lawyer is not as, sexy to sell as, I don't know, a new pair of shoes or a car or something, right?
Also, the return business types are different from, I think you gave the example of a mattress being sold, not every
exactly.
second month. But I was still thinking, okay, I get the point. Now, how can I rephrase my emails or reconstruct or redesign my campaigns to encourage a second opening or a reply, for instance? Is there things, should I work more intensively with replying to emails? Is this an important feature for Mautic, for instance?
Okay.
Or is it a rat race? Should I just act naturally and not try to game the system?
Yes, exactly. So that's the important part here is, just like we have with social media, different industries, different types of content and patterns are going to be enforced in one way or another differently. So somebody who might be in a more difficult industry might have different issues than somebody who's selling shoes. So we're thinking, cryptocurrency emails from legitimate places versus people who sell shoes are stressed about different things, right? Yeah. But each one has their own kind of engagement patterns. Google will understand that these kinds of customers expect this kind of engagement from them, and this kind of business, we're going to expect different kind of engagement from them. The issue at the end of the day, though, remains the percentage of positive engagement we have with brands versus negative, and what makes sense in your industry and the way you send. Because some cryptocurrency companies send emails 20 times a day, and some of them send you one weekly email. Even those need to be compared differently. So all of these semantics are going to be for the big businesses, the Googles and the Hotmails and things like that. What about the smaller ESPs? So what they're going to look at, again, is the green versus the red flags. People who have emails that are being engaged with in normal ratios, that people are going to reply or read when they're like at normal intervals, is always going to inbox better than a business that sends an email whenever it remembers to send an email. People forget about the brand. Things are inconsistent. The open rates kind of go up and down. Things bounce because there's so much time between emails. There's so much difference there. But still, it's easy to calculate the red flags versus the green flags.
Okay.
And the mailbox providers, at the end of the day, that's what they want: happy people. So from a company like Google that is maybe has a more sophisticated way to track engagement versus a smaller, very local, Greek inbox provider that is looking for it, what they want is the same at the end of the day. People that are happy in their inbox.
Okay. I guess I get that, and it's understandable too. Okay. Let's switch topic entirely and go to some technical things.
Sure.
This one is about setting up new infrastructure, like new IP address, etc. One common term there is you have to warm up the servers, the IPs with the mailbox providers.
Yes.
So what does it really mean? Is this a manual process? Are there tools? How does this go?
Okay. So the warm-up process, the reason we do this is because we don't want to shock spam filters. So it makes sense that one of the things that can be a very big red flag is if a domain was purchased, yesterday, and today it starts sending 10 million emails. In what world did I get 10 million signups in 24 hours to a business that existed since yesterday, right? So it's of course a huge red flag. And in order to protect users, they're going to say, you know what, we're going to block all the emails and we're going to let some in order to establish, are these good senders or not? Are people complaining, happy, not happy? And then slowly let more emails go in. So instead of doing it that way, where you're shocking a machine, in the warm-up period, you're doing the other way around. You buy an IP, you buy your domains, and then when everything is set up and ready to send, you start sending a little bit of emails to say, hello, I exist, I have some customers, I'm sending emails, look, everybody's happy, my open rates are normal, my bounces are also normal in the thresholds. People are engaging, they're not complaining about it. And as you continue, you just start sending more, or you start introducing new pieces of your infrastructure. It's just plainly put to not shock machines on the other end.
Okay. Is it about domains or IPs?
Domains and IPs. Yeah, so domains and IPs, even people who have domains that they've used for years, if they move from one provider to another provider, it can be shocking. Like, hey, this company has been using, I don't know, CakeMail for 15 years, and now suddenly they're using MailChimp. Like, they would protect the audience member just in case this is spoofing or there's an issue. It's normal that we have to reintroduce ourselves and make sure that any change that we make is going to be kind of slowly enforced in the spam filters. And warm-up is not only for new domains and new IPs, it can also be used for a huge pivot of your company. If you go from being a high-fashion company to a non-profit, you're going to have to reintroduce yourself to the spam filters. Or, if you were a store and now have a new pharmaceutical department, but never talked about pharmaceuticals before, maybe slowly adding the content in would be more beneficial than just like smack, let's talk about, medicine and insurance and things like that.
Yeah.
So warm-up is for everything.
Yeah. In general, okay. So thanks for that. And I think that the broader sense of warming up, it's good to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, sometimes there's what is the term? Send rate or something. There are mailbox providers who say, okay, I am applying, or your traffic is beyond the send rate. Probably the send rate increases with reputation, but given I don't have a great reputation with this mailbox provider, is it a valid strategy to say, okay, I just send send slowly. I have still a million of emails, but I send just 1,000 a day. Well, let's say 10,000, and have better success rate, or is it fiction?
So when a mailbox provider rate limits you, or like a rate limits a sender, it is usually either to protect the sender or to protect somebody from something. This can be because over time you've established a huge amount of complaint rate over time. So the ratio, like, sometimes you have a spike, but it doesn't affect you. But if you kind of accumulate them over time, it can really impact your reputation. We don't trust you anymore. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to rate limit you. One of the reasons they're doing this is to make you look at your list and say, okay, maybe this, 30, 40% of the list is useless to me. I don't need to send to it. They're kind of rate limiting you at the point of where you should be sending at. Sometimes more because they're trying to stop you from annoying people. Other times, the rate limitations can be put into place simply because you're on a block list. And that's it. They're just going to block every single email and not let it in. Yeah. The rate limits are as annoying as they can be. They're very informative. If you see a rate limit, it's not that sending less necessarily is going to fix the problem. So like you queue your emails, and instead of taking 3 days to send them, you take 5 days to send them. The rate limit is kind of take a step back, look at your list, and fix what you need to fix with your list. Yeah, okay. It really is more of a signal instead of like a limitation. Unless you're sending emails to like a very small provider, and for some reason, I don't know, your company is Greek, you're sending to a Greek ISP, and they cannot possibly accept all of your emails, but the chances of that are like very low. Most of the time, it's just a warning, like, hey, you have something to fix, please fix it, and you're not going to have a rate limit. Yeah. People shouldn't have that as a problem.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, one means or one way to get better reputation, better success rates is getting trying some sort of whitelisting. And you did mention Beamy as a trust signal towards the user, but maybe also towards the mailbox provider. There are others here in Germany. We have a Trusted Dialogue and CSA, Certified Senders Alliance, something.
Alliance, yeah.
Yeah. There also used to be Return Path, which is now validity.com. There may be others. So whitelisting, does that make sense? Is it worth the money? Some are really expensive.
Okay. Yeah, some are really expensive. So here's the thing. The Beamy is part of one of the authentication protocol somebody can enact. It's still a little bit annoying because you do need to have like a registered logo in order to do this. It's the only kind of easy way for everyone to track. If, I can just start using PayPal logo, right? So it's a kind of way to track. But authentication is the first step to prove that your emails are yours and all the other ones are not. So, hey, look at the difference between my real emails and the fake emails. When it comes to certifications, a lot of times, certain businesses need them because of the industry they are in. They're having a hard time with specific spam filters that are more strict, but not as grandiose, let's say, or the budget of Google behind them. So sometimes it can be a little bit white and black, and having this certified. The certification can help. So CSA definitely is one that can help you, especially in the European market, if you're having any issues. But what the certifications make you do in order to have them is make you a good sender. You have to follow the laws, no matter where you live. You have to have consent. You need to be sending emails that are not considered spam. And the definition of spam is an unsolicited or unwanted email. So even if I give you my consent, I can still deem your email unwanted. So still spam. So these certifications make you just a good sender. Force you to have an unsubscribe link, force you to have your who is public, so that you can take credit for your good and bad actions. Therefore, not only does the certification help with certification, but it also helps them because it kind of forces people to be better senders. So if you can just force yourself to be a better sender, you might not need a certification to land in the inbox. Unless you're like in a very difficult industry, or, certain industries have to email government officials, and the government officials don't allow external emails. And there's all this like things you have to do in order for the emails that they need to receive to be received, then, going that route is important. But if you have a regular business, and you don't need to have a certification, because the certification is going to force you to be a good sender. You have to follow all the laws. Even if you're an American company, you still have to follow GDPR. You need to protect consumers, send good emails from reputable sources that, protect data of your customers and things like that. You're going to be good. So it's like I have a middle opinion on the certifications. I don't think most people need them, honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Just follow the rules. Best practices will always help. It's annoying, but it's true.
Fair enough. Then there was another term. There was spam traps that came up multiple times in your talk, but
yes.
I guess people did not get what that means. Who is creating a spam trap? Why would they? And why would spam trap emails end up on my list?
Ooh, okay. So a spam trap, the word trap is in it, is a way to find senders who are either not following best practices, such as either purchasing lists or not protecting their forms, not having double opt-in, or list validation tools during sign-up. Things like that. A spam trap is simply an email address that can receive emails, but does not have a human behind it. So it's like a company that will either buy domains that used to exist, and create inboxes that receive emails. And what they will do is that they will hide these emails all over the internet. And if you're scraping emails off LinkedIn or purchasing lists or things like that, they will be there because the machine is unable to tell. You can pass them through a list cleaner and they will still pass as valid emails, unless somebody figured out they were there, but there's millions and millions of new ones created a day. Now, another type of spam trap is email addresses that used to exist and they're not used by that person anymore. So now imagine all those email addresses we created in high school that no one ever uses again. Those mailbox providers, I used to have a Hotmail back in the day, and I never used it. And I tried to log in a couple, and I cannot log in anymore. But if you send an email to it, it doesn't bounce actually, which is very funny. As somebody, I was geeky enough, I tested it. Does my email still exist? And I cannot log into it, but it can still accept emails. So, for example, if I were to sign up with that email address everywhere, those people would continue emailing them, especially if they don't have double opt-in and confirmation and things like that. And Hotmail would know that this email address hasn't been used in more than a decade. Okay. It's easy for Hotmail to kind of realize that these people either haven't cleaned the list in a long time, which unfortunately happens, I did sign up to stuff back in the day. So if anybody still has my email address and they're sending me emails, the inbox exists. It's able to accept emails, but I'm not in control of it anymore. So Hotmail can tell all the people that are in that inbox, hey, they haven't cleaned their list or they're buying lists.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ways for them to end up in your list. And the best way to get rid of them is not even through list validation, is through engagement. They will never engage or buy anything from you. There's no human there.
Okay, yeah, we're always getting back to that. You did mention about list cleaning, maybe in two different senses. One in a technical way, one in a like overhaul, ask for the opt-in once again or something. So listing, is that a term that you can define, or is it just multiple ways?
Yes, definitely. So there's two types. So there's the organic way, based on the engagement, to have people open, things like that. We want to remove them if they're not going to bring any value to our business. And there's list validation tools that do this technically by ensuring that the email is capable of receiving an email. So as a bounce. So they will let you know all those different, is it risky or not? Yeah. And things like that.
Okay. Moving on. The email service provider, so the Amazon or Mailgun or whatever you use for delivering email out of Mautic, do they make a difference? Are there ESPs who have better chances of good open rate or good delivery or inbox rates, or is it all the same as long as you have a unique dedicated IP?
Okay. So this all depends on the type of business you're running and the volume and all, and of course the budget you have for it. But the reputation falls on both parties, the sending IPs, whoever's sending it for you, and the sender domain that is sending the email. So both of those together are going to help. Of course, a company that allows people to spam through its infrastructure will affect your deliverability. But if you're with any reputable business that sends emails and has, thousands and millions of emails being sent from it, there's no issue. Your reputation is your own and you can manage it.
Yeah, it's not like an entire IP network, etc., could be deemed bad or something. Okay.
Yeah, and even if a whole IP, like for example, I had a customer that was listed that was sending from IPs that were listed, and they had an issue; they couldn't migrate, but their domain was fine. Their emails were inboxing 100%, even though the IPs themselves, because it wasn't because of them that the issue happened, it was because of somebody else. The mailbox providers they're really strong every day. They're able to tell the difference between the sender being an issue and the infrastructure being an issue.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? How the domain can be top rated and the IP can all be read and post multiples.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they at the same point they say that's just one of many indicators.
Exactly.
And so don't worry.
Yeah, the historical reputation is important. What you've done through time, or how people are, what people are doing with your emails, and what you're doing with it as well. It's very, it's so important, and it sounds silly, like it's really doesn't. Yeah, it does. A lot of green flags will help erase a big red one.
Yeah. Especially if the red one is something that is not entirely under your control.
Exactly.
Next up. From a colleague of mine, list unsubscribe. For if you send newsletters, you should have this header that gives the button in a email client where you can unsubscribe from this newsletter. When many people click that button, I always think that's a good thing. Can it be a red flag too, or no?
No, that button is so not all. Emailing systems will do this for you. Some people don't even notice it really, and they don't think about it. So it's a really great question. So in many mailbox providers, instead of clicking on the unsubscribe link inside the email, you have the link inside the mailbox provider tool. So it makes it easier to unsubscribe. I'm in the group of people that think it's great that it's there. It reduces the spam complaints. It's a one-click way to unsubscribe from an email. Your ESP is going to get the information, so you're able to get the information and unsubscribe them. It won't get clicked by the spam filter because it's in the header. It's the ESP is looking for it to add it there. And I know we always get disappointed when people unsubscribe, but it's okay. Just let them go. That a lot of people have seen an actual lowering of their spam rates because when the button was kind of introduced, because some people were just annoyed at specific types of emails, and I don't know, the company didn't have a very good preference center or a way for the person to manage it. So by doing that, they were able to kind of reverse engineer a preference center, and it reduced spam rates. Because people were able to unsubscribe correctly from the right place.
Yeah. Well, the right place. In your mind, what is the intention from the user? What is the right way to handle this list unsubscribe? Is it really unsubscribe from this list, or is it an entire do not contact?
I think that depends on your capacity. Because a lot of times we have websites that have these beautiful preference senders, but at the end of the day, they just send the same email to everyone. So they know what I want, but they cannot afford it. I think it's more of a question of what is the goal behind your email. And if your goal behind your email is, getting people to come to an event or get informed or buy something, to unsubscribe them based on that preference. So the easiest example would be an airline. Maybe I looked for some ticket prices for Japan. You don't really have to remind me 20 times a week until I buy them. Can you leave me alone? I want to unsubscribe from that. I don't want to necessarily unsubscribe from the plane tickets because I'm going to Inbox Expo this August, for example. I need those emails. So there a separation would make sense. But if you, in your business side, you don't have this preference center, things like that, unsubscribe people and try to re-engage them differently.
Okay. Okay. I do have some Mautic-related questions. Maybe one more general question, and that is use of subdomains or sender addresses, etc.
Yes.
Is there any sort of favorite setup where you say, okay, the email or newsletters should come from a different subdomain than transactional emails or whatever? Is there any thing you recommend?
Yeah. I'm on the side of if there's different types of emails, and by types I mean, like you said, transactional versus marketing versus, like holiday emails, for example, and to divide it based on that. Now, don't go crazy, sign-ups one email, passwords another email, but the important emails like the invoices, reset passwords, confirmation emails, bills, all those really, really, really important things, those should come from one subdomain, for example. The marketing, anything that's marketing, there to sell, get people to come to an event, those should be another subdomain. If you don't have the time to separate, two types of emails in your week, I don't think you need multiple senders. But if you do have like your MailChimp, and then you have your Shopify emails being sent from Shopify and your mailbox provider emails, it might be good to have a marketing, a transactional, and your base domain as your inbox. But don't go crazy. It's just more to define, like here, to make it easier for a computer to define, like these are the super important emails that even if the person reported the brand as spam, they should still get a reset email password, right? Those should come all together, and anything that sells is something else. That way, if those don't have good deliverability, they don't impact your business for your current customers being able to use your tools or, ask for refunds or do things like that.
Yeah, I was really thinking about the larger businesses. And especially using their base domain for any sort of marketing emails. I'm always, I have mixed feelings.
Fearful. It's stressful, isn't it? Yeah. And then especially that a lot of us don't have like DMARC implemented, let alone with all the subdomains and things like that. It's for big businesses, both of those might be kind of interesting to take care of, monitor your DMARC at the same time as your singular subdomain reputation.
Yeah, and getting a DMARC activated for the main domain is a hard thing to do, while for a subdomain it's much easier.
Yeah, it can be, and it's a stressful process already to DKIM and SVF can be stressful based on the size of your organization, and especially businesses are international between American stuff and European IPs and all of that. It can be very, very stressful to manage all of this. So yeah.
Now, when it comes to an aggressive policy, then you don't have friends anymore.
Right. I know you're really stressed.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about Mautic while we're getting to the end of the conversation. And one of the topics of discussion is always bounce handling. What is the best bounce handling possible? Because right now, in Mautic, we go pretty straightforward. We do the necessary stuff, but we're not very sophisticated. And there are 10 or 20 ideas of what else should we do, how should we deal with soft bounces, etc. When should we involve do not contact and when not, blah, 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 blah. Do you have any scenario or any perfect bounce handling where you would think this is what you should look for, this is what you should act?
Okay. Well, different mailbox providers are going to give different bounce messages, even though it's the same kind of bounce. So you have the mailbox full. The message that they give you is not necessarily a copy-paste between Google and Hotmail. So that's where the annoying can come in and where the differences come, where people are tracking specific words to group them together as the same type of bounce that will have the same type of output, like removing them from the list or allowing them to soft bounce 4 times before being removed from a list.
Exactly.
So the one thing that can be seen differently through ESPs, and sometimes people don't realize it, is the ESP, like CakeMail versus MailChimp, is going to decide what they do with specific messages. So if a mailbox is full, some of them will allow it 4 times, and then will unsubscribe. Some will allow it 3 times, and the 4th time it happens, immediately unsubscribe it. So that's where different businesses might have different issues, because, for example, one bounce that is very interesting is the spam house bounce. If your domain is listed on spam house, Microsoft will bounce every single of your emails, right? Because of your domain.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to have ESPs stop sending those emails to Microsoft, because we know preemptively that if we see that and it's still listed, it will bounce. We know in the future that this will happen. Why even send out that email? So I'm using this example to show or to illustrate that based on the business you're in and the frequency at which you're emailing people and the frequency at which you can fix issues or monitor things, has to come into account into how you handle bounces. Because if you're really, really fast and you're sending, welcome emails, you have 1 million signups a day. From 1 million signups, we can imagine that a good 10% minimum is Hotmail. So all those signups are bouncing. No one is getting those emails to confirm their accounts. What do? We need a form that is able to react quickly and say, hey, please use another email because we have an issue, or whatever message you want to say. Bounces can and will always be handled differently by different businesses. It's when you're doing things on your own, it's using a little bit of logic based on your volume, how people react, and how you send emails. Then you can be more or less strict
in Mautic,
on things.
I mean, it's twofold. One thing is the things that the person has to decide who sets up the system, and things like, okay, 5 times you're out is something you can easily do on the campaign side or whatever in Mautic, in logic. But the means that are provided, like
reading the bounce, you mean?
You can, you get the soft bounces from Amazon, or you have groups of soft bounces, and not everything is the same, etc. So like technological means that are provided by Mautic. This is what we're currently discussing. What else should we do? And it's an ongoing discussion. And,
it's an interesting one. Bounces are super interesting. They can tell you they can predict the future, and people are like, "Oh, less than 1%, I'm good." It's like, no, did you read the bounces? What type of bounces? I don't know. It was less than 1%. It's so important to read the types that come in, and it is a little bit annoying sometimes when if you don't have a list of those words that you can group together. Over time, you will accumulate them, and different providers, and you'll know what the mailbox full is for Google, AWS, Hotmail, and all the GMX and everyone. But it's extremely important to read it. Like Microsoft tells you, hey, we're starting to junk your emails. Even if you don't have SNDS and it's not your dedicated IPs, it's time to do something. You don't wait until they're bouncing and they're being blocked completely. It's too late. You had 3 months of Hotmail telling you in your bounces, hey, we're junking, and you didn't even look at it. Bounces can tell you the future.
I'm wondering whether that is something that Mautic can do in the first place. I mean, what we normally do is have the ESP send us a copy of each soft bounce, so we can do this grouping and looking at it. But the ESP may not even provide an API to get the soft bounce content to
I know.
Mautic system.
I know, but if your business is in the understands what we're talking about and can do something like this, it's maybe time to go towards a business that gives you this kind of information. Or looking into using an MTA and building your own infrastructure around it, because if you can do it, come on, like with Mautic. Right? Can you imagine if you can, if you were able to grab all these bounces, the kind of insights you can give people, the things you can put in a graph, and the things you can monitor is crazy, way more interesting than open and click rates.
Definitely. Open rates is the thing by itself. Oh, so many more questions, but I have to come to an end here. Thank you very much for those insights. Are there any pointers you want to give to people, good websites to learn from, or talks to watch, and so on?
Of course. I definitely have a link, yt.academy/resources. I have a list of all the my favorite places to learn, or people that I learned from, that I stalk on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I read their articles and things like that. So if there's anything there, definitely interesting place to learn from. And if not, we have Email Console. We have a major announcement where we finally partnered up with Radek from Bouncer, and we have his tool is going to be using our tool inside of it in order to promote deliverability monitoring tools, which is great. So we're working together, honestly, to democratize deliverability and simplify it for people by making it accessible. And of course, with deliverability, the whole point is to make sure that people actually get the email. So we want to ensure that you can stay connected, with your subscribers via email. Because all the marketing in the world is not going to save you if no one gets it, right?
Okay. So this news is something people can find on your website already?
Yes, they can find it on our website, on the Bouncer website as well. They can even try the beta testing. You have some free credits there to play around and see how you can monitor your IPs and domains against block lists, and of course a seed listing tool to test your inbox placement.
The link I added in the show notes, and everybody should try it out right now.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah. So for those in the audience who do not consider Bounce as the greatest fun on the earth, I guess you're there to help them get better business success with better email inbox rates. How can people get best in touch with you directly?
The best way is to connect with me through LinkedIn or to schedule an appointment directly. With me, I love to geek out about email. So even if you just want to talk and get excited about email, be my guest. But if you need any help with your deliverability or understanding where to get better resources, that's also fine by me. Just connect and ask away. Okay,
very cool. Thank you so much. This was a ton of nerd stuff, I'm afraid. I hope some people are still awake, but I know that many people are very, very keen to learn the best and learn the details and get help, etc. So everybody stay in touch, give us feedback on the Mauticast, and of course get in touch with Yanna-Torry as well. Thank you so much for your time. I hope we talk soon once again, maybe some even more Mautic related things, and next news, next announcements from either sides. Thank you so much. Take care. See you soon.
Of course. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Ja, ich finde es, ich sag mal, interessant, dass es natürlich jetzt wichtig wird oder ein Thema ist, sagen wir es erstmal vorsichtig, auch aus dieser Sicht auf Engagement in der Formulierung, in der Art, in der Aufbereitung des Newsletters achten zu dürfen oder zu müssen aus Benutzersicht. Ich möchte meine Kunden erreichen, ist das ja ein Klassiker und natürlich total selbstverständlich, aber dass die Dimension jetzt da nochmal dazu kommt, ist interessant, sage ich mal.
Es erinnert mich ein bisschen so an die alten SEO-Tage.
Ja.
Also im Prinzip kommst du immer sofort in eine Künstlichkeit.
Exakt.
Wenn du versuchst, Dinge zu verstärken.
Du hältst den Benutzer in einer Loop, um Engagement zu signalisieren, was im Zweifel ja für deinen Inhalt des Newsletters gar nicht so wirklich nötig ist. Das einfachste Engagement, klicke einen Link, okay, natürlich, das ist ja die Idee. Aber halte ihn am Scrollen, den Benutzer, bringe ihn zu 2 oder 3, also das ganze Thema im Web Slideshows, und diesen einzelne Pages und zwinge den Benutzer, verkürzte Artikel mit Paging, Seite 2, Seite 3, um Google Engagement zu zeigen.
Ja, auch das ist halt ist ja dann nicht wie SEO, sondern wie vielleicht noch wie Ad-Revenue oder sowas, aber im Prinzip wird es dann halt so ein Ausnivellieren geben, wo Dinge sofort nach hinten losgehen und mehr schaden, als sie nutzen, und ja, deswegen würde ich das auch hier nicht übertreiben. Es ist halt wirklich ein Signal von ganz vielen, und wenn man da eine gute Idee hat, dann halt machen. Ne? Gut, kommen wir zu, was tut sich in der Mautic Community, und es gab schon wieder ein neues Community Spotlight, und diesmal ist es die gute Volha, oh Gott, jetzt muss ich vorlesen, Pivavarchyk.
Ja.
Pivavarchyk?
Ja.
Oh ja. Die ist zu Hause in Slowenien und ist in letzter Zeit auch durchaus aktiv im Mautic Marketing. Also hat schon diversen guten Content geliefert. Leon findet sie besonders super, weil er in einem Blog mal einen Tipp bekommen hat, der ihm ein bisschen den Hintern gerettet hat. Von daher, ja, Spotlight von unserer Seite können wir das voll unterstreichen, weil ja ist eine echte Bereicherung für die Mautic Community.
Genau. Speaking of Mautic Community, es gibt den 2. Quartal Mautic Community Roundup.
Das Quartal ist schon wieder vorbei, ne?
Das geht alles rasend.
Ja, genau. Wie immer mal einen Blick wert, einmal kurz sich den Überblick zu verschaffen, was ist denn so gelaufen. Manchmal sind es Dinge, über die wir im Podcast hier nicht reden. Manchmal gibt es noch mal ein paar zusätzliche Links. Vieles kennt ihr bestimmt schon, aber ich finde, die Community ist es durchaus wert, da auch immer nochmal sich das klar zu machen, was da eigentlich läuft. Und dann gibt es natürlich ein besonderes Highlight noch. Wir haben letztes Mal schon gesprochen über São Paulo, also die Mauticon South America 2022 für November. Da ist jetzt das Datum ziemlich sicher. Es wird Donnerstag, Freitag, 3., 4. November sein. Also die Woche nach Thanksgiving. Wie heißt das? Dieser neue Feiertag.
Halloween,
ja. Der Halloween-Feiertag. Reformationstag bei uns in Niedersachsen. Der Donnerstag, Freitag. Der 2. ist in Brasilien selbst ein Feiertag. Deswegen diese beiden Tage. Der 3. wird der Konferenzteil sein, also wo Talks sind. Am 4. sind andere Sachen, die mehr so Learning und Hands-on sind, aber offiziell geht die Konferenz über diese beiden Tage, und vielleicht gibt es sogar noch ein bisschen Rahmenprogramm, das werden wir noch sehen.
Cool.
Genau, also 99% safe, das ist noch nicht veröffentlicht, von daher nicht weiter sagen. Gut, aber weiter sagen dürft ihr natürlich, wie toll so ein Mauticast ist. Ne?
Definitiv.
Ja. Falls ihr irgendwas vermisst dabei, dann sagt das auch weiter, und zwar an uns.
Genau.
Nein, also spread the word ist immer gut, aber wie immer, wir freuen uns über Feedback aller Art, inhaltliche, auch Tipps, dass wir immer schön viele Housekeeping haben, wenn wir Fehler gemacht haben.
Ja.
Oder auch sonstige Hinweise. Genau. Bleibt uns gewogen, bleibt dem Mautic gewogen, den Mauticsen, wie Thomas vorhin so schön gesagt hat.
Jawohl.
Und wir hören uns bald wieder in alter Frische, hoffentlich bei guten Temperaturen immer noch. Bis dann. Tschüss, schönen Sommer.
Ciao, ciao.